this is probably like a bot comment, but I'm just going to like use it as an example for like the talking points that I want to make. Nobody should be trying to push trans onto kids. You can't force kids into certain things, you know? If it doesn't align with their gender identity, then like it doesn't work. And we have experiments, like cruel, really cruel experiments that show that you can't make a cis kid trans. And you can't make a trans kid cis. Conversion camps are abused for a reason. Stop using rare dysphoric people to groom children in like, that is, like, insane. And just, like, replied with, like, asking Croc. They're AI. They're anti-woke AI. And it's like, no, this is not grooming. Transitioning is forced onto kids as being cool. That is wild. To think that that is a trend or something. Like, to look at the current climate and just be like, oh, that's, like, a trend. Like, that has to be a bot comment. But I wanted to talk about something which is like, what if the kid regrets transitioning? And I want to make something really clear. Gender affirming care is age appropriate. 8-year-olds are not going to be forced into anything. Like the most gender affirming care someone under the age of like 12 or something would experience would be socially transitioning. You know, being able to freely express themselves as a child, calling them by a different name, using different pronouns for them. That is like at most what would happen. But like, what if a child regrets transitioning? First of all, you also work with experts, and puberty blockers just delay puberty. You know, and there are a lot of people who are like, well, you should just wait until you're 18. So you're basically forcing them to go through irreversible changes. Now, the other path is like, you let them transition. What if they regret it? If they regret it, they can transition back. If they don't regret it, they can live happily, like without the dysphoria imposed by going through the wrong puberty. They either going through the wrong puberty this way, or they're going through the wrong puberty in this way. When you put a kid on a puberty, it is not a switch. This is like 10 years of puberty, of transitioning and whatnot. At any point, they could just like stop and go through the other puberty. For every one kid regretting, there's over 350 trans kids unaliving themselves because they didn't have the chance to transition. Giving trans kids access to gender affirming care reduces suicide risk by 73%. Reminder that the CAS review didn't recommend puberty blockers, since most that go on puberty blockers ends up going on HRT anyway, but that detail got ignored. The CAS review also dismissed most studies because they were pro-trans. They were done by experts who turned out to be pro-trans because the studies supported transitioning. And then they dismissed it for being biased or something. You see that like this has like the potential of a good outcome, while this always leads to dysphoria. Even if it turns out to be a kid wants to be a man, all this time they are not sure, they're questioning who they are, they're like wondering what if, allowing them to get gender affirming care and like work with experts and whatnot, like they might get the certainty required, so they stop like second guessing and whatnot. Then there are like so many people who are like, oh, you know, kids shouldn't worry about that, they should just like go to school. But like, this is such a prominent part of who you are, how society perceives you, how your classmates treat you and whatnot. You know, when people perceive you a certain way and it doesn't align with who you are, then all aspects of your life suffer. This is going to be the most common outcome if you have like a trans kid. So why force a trans kid to go through the wrong puberty just because you're not comfortable enough and confident enough that that person knows who they are? 1% regret rate versus 99% satisfaction. And even with 99% satisfaction, more than half of trans people engage in self-harm in some way because of how shitty our life is. That's why it's always like so cruel when people think it's like some sort of flex to be like, oh, look at these people becoming a statistic, huh? It's like, you're the reason why this is like such a big problem in the first place. But like forcing someone to go through the wrong puberty, because like if you have a kid who is questioning their gender identity, you're not like, oh, well, okay, let's go to the doctor and get HRT. Like, no, let's work with experts in the field. Let's work with pediatricians, with therapists who know way more about this than I do, who are much more competent, and it is up to the child to decide. The child knows the most about their gender identity, even if people are like, oh, kids pretend to be dragons sometimes. They pretend to be everything. It's like, that is different. This is not like an imaginary thing. This is not like playing pretend. And a lot of times, in order to even get that treatment, you have to be consistent for like 6 months. You know, kids aren't able to keep up alive for this long. If this is the most common outcome, and if this has less risks and less negatives than this, why would you force trans people to go through this? That is just cruel. Just imagine this one. You wait till a child is 18. The thing is, like, most of the time, they don't even want 18-year-olds to transition. They keep rising, like, the levels. As soon as the line gets pushed, they want more. It's no longer 18. 18-year-olds are basically kids. Oh, let's wait till they're 25, when puberty is complete, to cause maximum damage. And then they're like, okay, now they're only able to transition when they're 25. We don't actually want them to transition in general. We know what their motive is. We know what their agenda is. Let's just play that game for a second. Let's imagine you have a trans girl. You force them to go through the wrong puberty till they're 18 because you're not comfortable enough with letting them just explore who they are, figure themselves out, work with experts and whatnot. They're waiting till they're 18. Now they're going to explore who they are. They have like all these changes caused by puberty that wouldn't have been in place but are no longer reversible because you weren't educated enough and you have the audacity to decide who they are. And then this is going to take a really long time, depending on how the accessibility is to like gender affirming care. Because trying to find like an expert in the field is already like really difficult. Finding people who are willing to help you is already really difficult. And then additionally, going through puberty again, working through all these things, that takes years. I've been on HRT for like 3 years now. Going through puberty, going through second puberty takes just as long as it takes to go through the first puberty. But you have like additional struggles on top. You know, things like my voice that I still deal with, that I still feel dysphoric about. My height, the skeletal changes and whatnot that happen because of testosterone. Having that ugly in-between transitioning stage. Missing out on so many opportunities in life because I wasn't able to be myself and explore the world as myself. This takes 10 years or something to figure yourself out. And then you're 28. And then you're trying to catch up. For me personally, I wasn't capable enough to focus on like a career or something while I was numb, depressed, disassociating, and just had zero energy. Miss out on having a daughter relationship with your parents. You know, you're not being socialized in the right way. I wasn't socialized as a girl. That's why I don't feel like I've always been a girl or whatnot. I want to be a daughter to someone so bad. Yeah, I feel that. I just want to have like a childhood that would have been my childhood, you know? I don't want to deal with like all these like issues. I start transitioning with 25. I came out and like started seeking help with like 22. I wasn't 18 when I was able to start transitioning. And now I have like so many issues caused by the wrong puberty. I'm trying to put in so much effort and whatnot to like fulfill what is expected of a woman in this society, in this patriarchal, misogynistic society. And this causes a lot of stress. You know, because it makes you feel like you're not valid enough. When I'm around friends who are cis women, I feel like I'm not valid. I don't fit in because I'm not a cis woman. I wasn't socialized as a girl. I'm not valid because, I don't know, I don't pass yet. Feeling like the effort that I'm like putting in order to feel I'm worthy of the label woman is just not enough. And I have to do more. And that's where there are a lot of people who think that like, oh, am I trans enough? You know that this is the right path. But if you're like, well, okay, I don't fit into the box that society wants to push me in. Am I actually trans enough? Am I putting enough effort into it? That is like a huge thing. A huge problem to like deal with. So forcing kids to go through this, to have this path, where even when you transition, you still have to deal with dysphoric moments. You still have to deal with like all the irreversible harm caused by the wrong puberty, the missed out childhood, not having the right like social circle and like the right memories just being numb and depressed. Forcing kids through that is so much more cruel than letting a kid who is questioning their gender identity on HRT and then discovering, hey, this was not the right path for me. Because we know that most kids who are trans benefit from HRT because the regret rate is so astronomically low. I mean, this is not in a how do you really know you're a woman, but how do you know you're trans? Just want to know because half of the time I hate my skin and I wish I was a girl. The other half is I'm fine. I mean, it could also be like something like you're gender fluid or non-binary. Like that is also like a valid thing. But are the moments where you are fine moments where you're distracted from the dysphoria that you feel? Or is that just you wake up one day and you're like, well, today I feel like a man. Today I feel like a woman. But yeah, that is what it looks like. And we have the statistics, we have the expertise and like the confidence to assume HRT for kids that are questioning that gender identity is beneficial, because if you're questioning your gender identity and you work with experts and you like start transitioning and you're like, hey, you know, actually like I'm a year into like HRT and I don't feel like the changes align with how I feel inside, I want to stop taking HRT and I'm just going to let my biological puberty run its course, then like there's no harm done in it. But having to wait till you're 18 and then being able to like explore what is the right thing for you, that is what causes a lot of harm, because the kid has to constantly struggle with their gender identity the entire time. And you can't ignore that. You can't shove that down. I've lost friends since they couldn't transition. Yeah, it's tragic. I was dealing with a lot of mental health issues too because of gender dysphoria, because gender dysphoria causes that. The fact that people want to induce gender dysphoria in trans kids, knowing that the statistics are so high, that is just painful. That's cruel. And it really shows their motive. They don't care about the kids. They don't want the trans kids to live. They're even denying the existence of trans kids in the first place. They think we're just some ideology, but you just can't. You can't force someone to identify as something that they are not. No matter how much you bully us, no matter how much you abuse us. The worst thing that I've seen from the people who attacked me because of, you know, this situation, the worst thing that I saw was this. Knowing that there are people in this community who have been abused in this way because they're trans, abused into pretending to be someone that they are not in this way. That is insane. Like, I'm speechless. I can't with these people because they're so cruel. They dehumanize us so they can get away with doing the worst things imaginable to not just adults, but to children. There's no way you can justify that. I just want these people to face justice, and I want this like transphobic trend, this culture war to just stop. I'm so tired with like people toying with the lives of innocent children and adults for monetary gain. It is such an easy way to make money for these people, for these influencers, to just be transphobic. And don't let these people convince you that they are being cancelled for being anti-trans, because being anti-trans pays them the bills. It gives them the podcasts, gives them the sponsorship deals from like, I don't know, Steak, gets them boosted by Elon Musk, gets them funded by the Republican Party, gets them funded from Russia. It is just a way for these people to make money. And they don't care how many trans kids are joining the statistic. They pat themselves on the back when another one is gone. And that is just insane. That is like absolutely cruel.